Picture a teenage girl, barely 17, standing in a muddy French village, claiming she hears God's voice. Not just whispers but commands to lead an army, crown a king, and save a nation. Sounds like a fairy tale, right? Or maybe madness. Yet this girl, Joan of Arc, did exactly that, turning the tide of a war and rewriting history. How does a peasant with no training convince kings, outsmart generals, and become France's greatest heroine? What drove her to face fire and betrayal for a mission that seemed impossible? In the next half hour you'll uncover the untold truths of Joan's divine calling, her stunning victories, and the legacy that still inspires the world. So, settle in, maybe grab a coffee, and let's journey to medieval France to meet the girl who changed it all. It's 1429, and France is a battleground. The 100 Years' War with England has dragged on for decades, bleeding the country dry. English armies, backed by their Longbowmen and Burgundian allies, control swaths of northern France, including Paris. The French heir, Charles VII, is a weak, uncrowned king, mocked as the Dauphin, and holed up in Chinon, his claim to the throne slipping away. Villages like Domremy, where Joan grows up, are caught in the crossfire, raided, burned, and taxed into despair. Joan, born around 1412 to a peasant family, isn't your typical heroine. She can't read, can't write, and spends her days sowing and tending sheep. But here's the first key to her story: her faith was her fire. Raised in a deeply Catholic world, Joan prayed with a fervor that startled her neighbors. By age 13 she claimed to hear voices, Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret, urging her to save France. These weren't vague dreams. Joan described her voices as clear, like a friend speaking beside her, often accompanied by light. Skeptics, then and now, debate whether this was divine intervention, schizophrenia, or sheer imagination. But for Joan it was real. Her trial records, preserved in meticulous detail, reveal her unshakable belief: I was sent by God and I will obey. This conviction wasn't just personal, it was revolutionary. Imagine a girl in a world ruled by men, claiming a holy mandate to lead. For American audiences, think of her as a teenage Rosa Parks, someone who, against all odds, stood up because she believed it was right. Her faith gave her courage, but it also made her a target. Joan's first hurdle wasn't the English, it was getting to Charles. At 16 she convinced a local commander, Robert de Baudricourt, to escort her to Chinon, 300 miles away through enemy territory. Dressed in men's clothes for safety, she traveled with a small band, dodging English patrols. This journey alone is a testament to her grit. When she arrived in March 1429, Charles's court was a nest of skeptics. Nobles mocked her peasant roots, advisors feared a hoax. Yet, Joan walked into the crowded hall and picked Charles out of the crowd, though he disguised himself to test her. Trial transcripts quote her saying, "God sent me to you to make you king." This moment, her first public test, silenced the room. Charles, desperate for legitimacy, listened. Here's where Joan's mission took shape. Her voices didn't just demand action, they gave her a plan: lift the English siege of Orleans, crown Charles in Reims, and drive the invaders out. Orleans, a strategic city on the Loire River, was crumbling under English forces led by Sir William Glasdale. The French had lost hope, their army demoralized. Joan, with no military training, changed that. Granted a suit of armor and a white banner bearing the fleur-de-lis, she joined the French troops. Her role wasn't to swing a sword but to inspire. Soldiers, hardened by years of defeat, rallied around her. A contemporary chronicler, Jean de Wavrin, wrote, "Her presence was like a flame, kindling men's hearts." On May 7, 1429, Joan led a charge against the English fortifications. Despite an arrow wound to her shoulder, she refused to retreat. By May 8 the English fled. Orleans was free. This victory wasn't just tactical, it was a miracle to the French. Orleans flipped the war's momentum, proving England could be beaten. For Americans, it's like the Battle of Saratoga in the Revolutionary War, a turning point that galvanized a cause. Joan's success came from her ability to inspire, but also from her uncanny instincts. She predicted the wind would shift to 8 French boats crossing the Loire, a detail recorded by her squire, Jean d'Aulon. Whether divine or intuitive, her foresight stunned her allies. Charles, now believing in her, gave her command of further campaigns, a decision unheard of for a woman, let alone a teenager. Next came the Loire campaign, a string of victories that cleared the path to Reims, the traditional coronation city. In June 1429, Joan and commanders like the Duke of Alençon captured Jargeau, Meung and Beaugency, routing English garrisons. At Patay, the French crushed an English army, killing over 2,000 with minimal losses. Joan's banner, waving high, became a symbol of divine favor. These wins weren't just military, they were psychological. The English, who'd seen themselves as invincible, now feared the Maid. A letter from the English regent, the Duke of Bedford, called her a sorceress sent to confound us. This fear amplified her legend, much like Wallace's reputation terrified his foes. On July 17, 1429, Joan achieved her greatest triumph, Charles's coronation in Reims Cathedral. She stood beside him, banner in hand, as he was anointed king. This wasn't just a ceremony, it was a statement. In a war where legitimacy was everything, Charles's crowning unified France under one ruler. Joan, a peasant, had made it happen. For European viewers, especially those familiar with royal traditions, this moment echoes the weight of a Westminster coronation. For Americans, it's like the signing of the Declaration of Independence, a bold claim of sovereignty. Yet, Joan's work wasn't done. Her voices urged her to liberate Paris, a city still in English hands. Paris proved her undoing. In September 1429, Joan led an assault on the city's walls but was wounded again, this time in the thigh. The attack failed and Charles, wary of further risks, pulled back. This setback revealed Joan's limits. Her strength was inspiration, not strategy. Unlike seasoned generals, she relied on faith-driven charges, which worked until they didn't. Still, she pressed on, capturing smaller towns and rallying French resistance. Her persistence kept the English on edge, but it also exhausted her allies. Charles, now crowned, grew distant, preferring diplomacy over war. Joan, driven by her voices, couldn't stop. Her capture came in May 1430 at Compiègne, a French stronghold under siege. Leading a sortie, Joan was cut off by Burgundian troops, allies of the English. Her men retreated, but she stayed, fighting until pulled from her horse. The Burgundians, led by Jean de Luxembourg, sold her to the English for 10,000 livres. This betrayal wasn't just tactical, it was personal. Charles, who owed her his crown, did nothing to ransom her. For American audiences, it's a gut punch akin to a war hero abandoned by their government. Joan, now 19, faced her darkest hour, locked in a Rouen cell, chained and guarded by men who mocked her faith. The trial, beginning in January 1431, was a sham. Led by Bishop Pierre Cauchon, a pro-English cleric, it aimed to discredit Joan and Charles. Accused of heresy, witchcraft, and cross-dressing, Joan faced 70 charges. Her trial transcripts, preserved in the condemnation trial records, reveal her brilliance. Questioned for hours, she outwitted her interrogators. When asked if she was in God's grace, she replied, "If I am not, may God put me there. If I am, may He keep me there." This answer, recorded verbatim, stumped theologians expecting an easy conviction. Her defiance, even in chains, was her power. Yet the trial was rigged. On May 24, 1431, Joan briefly recanted, signing a confession under threat of death. But 2 days later she revoked it, resuming men's clothes and reaffirming her voices. This sealed her fate. On May 30th at Rouen's Old Market Square, she was burned at the stake, crying Jesus as flames consumed her. She was 19. The execution meant to erase her backfired. Witnesses, including English soldiers, wept, believing they'd burned a saint. A 1456 retrial, ordered by Charles, cleared her name, declaring her a martyr. Joan's legacy transcends France. She's a symbol of faith against doubt, courage against odds. In America, her story resonates with underdog tales. Think David versus Goliath. In Europe, she's a cultural icon, from French cathedrals to Shakespeare's plays, though he slandered her. Her canonization in 1920 as St. Joan cemented her universal appeal. But her impact was immediate. By 1435, France regained Paris. By 1453, the English were driven out, save Calais. Joan's spark lit the fire of French unity. What can we learn from Joan? Her story asks us to trust our convictions even when the world doubts. It challenges us to act despite fear. If a peasant girl could crown a king, what can you achieve? Visit Domremy, see her childhood home, or read her trial transcripts for a glimpse into her mind. Her banner, her armor, her letters, they're relics of a girl who believed. So, I want to know, what part of Joan's story hit you hardest? Her victories, her betrayal, or her final stand? Drop it in the comments. Like if her courage fired you up, and subscribe for more stories of history's game changers. Share this with a friend who loves epic tales. And don't miss our next video. Why William Wallace's rebellion still inspires freedom fighters today. You'll be shocked by how his fight echoes Joan's. Stay curious and I'll see you there.